You've got gold in your soul and a reason why you came here. These shifts and timeline jumps that you've been going through, they've been preparing you for a very big mission. They've been preparing you for something massive. Hearing first millionaire in your family, like you're shifting timelines. I'm seeing these threads of light, like there's different realities that you can be on, right? And we know this from manifestation and reality creation, that you've been shifting your identity, you've been doing the deep subconscious work and clearing so that you can access your higher self and so you can step into your highest timeline, because really your higher self is your higher timeline. They're the same thing. And so if you've been feeling yourself shifting back into old patterns, old identities, old timelines, these have just been coming up past this eclipse for clearing, for resolution. And not necessarily resolution that you find externally, though it can be if it's arising from a place internally. It's more of what I'm getting is an internal resolution of this process. So let's pull cards for you. See what is in the highest good for collective today. Receive these messages from the internal guidance system from Source, guides. Got Four of Cups, or water element. Maybe you haven't been seeing yourself clearly, or there's been this distortion in being able to see yourself clearly. Maybe you've dealt with narcissists. This image here also reminds me of, like, there's a crack here and they're looking in the mirror, like recognizing the perfectly imperfect, like you're perfectly imperfect, you're perfect the way you are. But maybe you also dealt with, this is reminding me of Narcissus, the story of where the word narcissist comes from, is the story of Narcissus going to the pool, and he looks into the reflection of the water and falls in love with the image of himself. And this leads him to become very egotistical and isolated from people. And that's actually where the word narcissist comes from. And this isn't a true self-love. This is, people that you've dealt with, or parts of yourself that you've dealt with that have been reflected in those people. Maybe you're very empathic, but where people don't see themselves clearly, but you can see and you could have compassion for them at the same time. So you ended up holding a lot of space, but really that ended up draining you, because at a deeper level, as you love yourself, you no longer give your energy to the vamps. You know what I'm saying? Because you recognize that everybody has their own journey. And that doesn't mean you can't engage with guidance, and that doesn't mean that everyone is misguided, but you've gained the ability to recognize when people are, when they are misguided, and when their intentions are off. And this has really honed your discernment to have true self-love, and also to see when people are two-sided. You've really honed your discernment to be able to see that. And just by being able to see that, you know that everything is psychic. Like, there's projection or reflection, consciousness is going on in reality, and that if you just don't give it power, it doesn't have power in your reality, because you just don't give it power anymore. I'm seeing here being in the flow state. This is reclaiming your energy so you can be in the flow state. And this is leading you to Ten of Pentacles, Ten of Earth. You're taking off the mask, you're being your authentic self, connecting to that dragon energy, that inner fire, that ancient wisdom, rootedness into the earth that is allowing you to be your true self, knowing that the manifestation of the Ten of Pentacles is true self. The manifestation of the abundance that is for you is the embodiment of your true self. It is not something outside of you that is different from you, right? Because that's the story of the not self, is that you need to be someone else in order to manifest this thing. And it comes from this deep-rooted limiting belief that you're not good enough, So a powerful thing to do is to actually see. A practice I did this morning was writing down the limiting beliefs that are connected to the lower timeline, that are connected to old self, to not self, and identifying what those patterns are that keep you from being in authenticity. Because what I'm getting here is that manifestation is about authenticity. There's this one study that they did that where they studied the different vibrations of different emotions. And, in the spiritual talk, a lot of people would be positive, right? But positivity is a lower vibration than authenticity. Authenticity, when they measured it, was actually the highest vibration, even higher than hope, right? Hope is not the highest vibration, but positivity is very hopeful sometimes, That's not the highest vibration. It's like, appreciation and gratitude is great, but it's not the highest vibration. The only thing that resonates anywhere near enlightenment from what they measured is authenticity, is being your true self. And there could be things that could be perceived as negative inside of that, but because you're in full authenticity, you're in full acceptance or approval of self, there's an integration there's an alchemization, right? This is something behind magic, is that when you alchemize your light and your dark, you also alchemize the parts of you that were in shame, that were judged as bad or wrong, or even self-sabotaging, or the pain and the suffering that you've gone through. You alchemize that along with the beauty and the love and the positive things and all your positive qualities. And actually, some of the greatest art has come out of really terrible times for people. Like there's that Fleetwood Mac album that they created where they had to be in a room, and then Stevie Nicks and her boyfriend they were making music and they were in the group and they were broken up and they had a terrible time, and but they had already signed a record deal and they had to make the album, and so they fucking they hated it, but they ended up making their best album. This is a story I heard one time. And so there's something in that of taking all of what you go through and turning it into something amazing. And this is part of this alchemical process that has been honing your intuition. It's been allowing you to tap into the unconscious realms, into the astral realms, into the spiritual realms, into the deeper dimensions that underlie reality, because this reality is a waking dream. I'm seeing here in this, like she's looking into this bowl. There's a lotus, it's like a scrying bowl. The lotus represents the alchemical mud from which that enlightened self, that true self, emerges, right? So that full range experience is the fire of alchemy. Wow, it's just flew out. And this has allowed you to, take off the mask. Also seeing the serpent here, the cat energy, like transmutation, and also pleasure being a portal for transmutation. But taking off the masks here with the 5 of air or swords, to be able to see clearly, even though she's blindfolded, there's an inner sight. There's a turning within to know yourself. We've also got dragonflies here. Could represent fertility, or maybe you've been seeing dragonflies or will see them. And some feathers here representing the air, And as you take off this mask, this gives you the permission to be your true self and to create, what it is that you came here to create. And yeah, we've got the Ace of Cups, the One of Water here. And this is kind of a fresh, new emotional start for you. Like there's might be a sense of excitement again, even after a time of dark night of the soul or shadow work, where there's a restoration inside of your emotional body, a reconfiguration. I'm hearing somatic work could be really powerful for you. Deep breathing. There's that technique where you breathe in 4 seconds, and then you breathe out 5 seconds. And when you breathe out longer than you breathe in, it activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So even sitting, for some time, meditation, doing some breath work, really, getting into that parasympathetic nervous system state with the Queen of Water, getting into that state of connection to your emotions with the mature feminine, receptivity energy, royal feminine energy connected to the moon here, connected to the deeper subconscious waters of yourself, allowing yourself to tap more into your feminine side, your creativity, your creative energy, your intuition. I'm talking polarity here, not gender. The inner waters, the subconscious, the softening, the receptive yin energy is actually key to manifestation, because the yin is what balances the yang, this yang fire energy that you've been really going after your goals. Because if you don't balance that energy, you end up being in conflict with the fire here, with the Five of Wands, the Five of Fire. And that inner conflict is splitting you because you're pushing more, and it puts you in that state of not enough, of scarcity, because you're taking actions from the identity of old self, of lower timeline, that you need to compensate with extra effort in order to manifest because of the deep rooted, whatever the subconscious belief is. And ultimately the way to heal this, or rather just align with yourself, to clear it, to integrate it, to alchemize it, is to get into the receptive mode, get into the yin energy state, connect to your subconscious, to the unconscious. And as you get into that state of receptivity, you let go of grasping, you let go of attachment to result. And that state is magnetic to what you want, because now you're becoming a match to it. Because all of it happens on the level of identity here with the counselor. And this will allow for an inner counseling between this conflict with the yang, with the fire, to have the balance between the masculine and feminine energies here. I'm seeing whales here. Giving back to the ocean could also be important to the mission. Emotions, and maybe there's some things that have been hidden underneath the surface, that by tapping into this receptive state, by getting into this meditation, getting to this breathing, just feeling to feel, not seeking a result, just being present and feeling your emotions, is actually the key here to the sword of discernment. Cut through the illusions, open up the veil, and create what it is that you're working on.